Today we're taking a long-term look at two of the top-tier mice on the market right now, the Logitech Superstrike and the Razer Viper V4 Pro. I like the idea of doing these long-term reviews because I've now had a chance to really spend some time with these mice. My opinions have changed over time, and honestly, they've turned into more reasonable takes. Like, I was really hyped when I first experienced the Superstrike. Logitech flew a handful of us all the way to Lausanne, Switzerland to check it out. This means I not only got to spend some quality FaceTime with some of my YouTube friends, but we also got to spend some time with all the different designers that make Logitech's mice come together. So automatically, getting a trip to Switzerland would make me say great things about this product, right? No, dude, that's not how any of this works. I do want to talk about the tech and the claims Logitech made, but I will definitely tell you whether or not I think they hit the mark. The real value in going to their home office was that we spent a 12-hour day totally immersed in how this tech works. For a little behind the scenes, normally when a product launches, brands get a bunch of us on one big Zoom call, essentially present a PowerPoint to us packed with marketing bullet points, some more corny than others, and then open it up to questions. Nobody ever has questions. I can say with 100% certainty that if Logitech had approached this like that, no one on that call would have fully understood the tech or why it had the potential to be so groundbreaking. So unless you've been living under a rock, the Superstrike is the first mouse ever to use magnetic input, similar to a Hall effect switch as opposed to a traditional mouse switch. This opens up a lot of stuff, which we'll dig into in a sec. Outside of that, the design is really unchanged from existing versions of the G Pro Superlight. Size and shape are the same, sensors the same, side buttons are the same. The reasoning for that is pretty simple and very smart. They knew what they had with this input system, and rather than completely redesigning a whole new mouse shape or going into a bunch of revisions which would have significantly delayed release, they pushed hard to get to market with this new tech. In doing so, they caught everybody off guard, which is really hard to do in 2026 with the amount of leaks we have. So the success of this release depended solely on their new hits tech being that impressive and well received. And the short version is, yes, it's very impressive, but how much it benefits you will come down a lot to what you play and how you play it. When it comes to pro peripherals, the goal is always faster. Faster wireless connections, faster inputs, lower latency. In this modern landscape, brands do everything they can to convince us that microseconds of latency reduction, 1,000th of a millisecond, will give us the unfair advantage to dominate lobbies. In real life, these slight revisions, fractions of milliseconds, aren't doing anything to move the needle at all, and that's kind of why mice feel pretty boring lately. From the time you actuate the switch and the signal makes its way to your PC, everything is just kind of good now. Switches, sensors, wireless connectivity, it's all just pretty good. Logitech approached this differently. Instead of chasing down microseconds on the back end after the input, they focused on reducing the time between the human reaction and the actuation of the switch. They claim up to a 30 millisecond reduction in click speed, showing an average latency gain of 15 milliseconds for the 32 Pros they tested and like 26 milliseconds for the 8 non-Pro players. These are big numbers. I say all the time in my reviews that I don't think people can feel fractions of a millisecond, but these numbers are big enough that you should be able to feel them. If you've ever owned a mouse with an unreasonably high factory setting for debounce delay and then you've lowered that, you know exactly what I mean. The traditional ways we would normally measure click latency without access to a large lab don't really apply here, but again, these are big enough that you should be able to feel this performance increase. So can you? Superstrike lets us decide how far down we want to depress the mouse button before we actually trigger the input. This works on both mouse 1 and 2, and you have independent settings for each. A couple things about that. We talked so much that day about the importance of getting to the input faster, it made me realize I have a really bad habit. I inadvertently hover my index finger about an inch off mouse 1 before I take my shot. I knew it was a bad habit, but I had no idea how bad in terms of latency. I was adding milliseconds to get from here to here. It's a miracle I ever won a gunfight. But let's say that you're not as trash as I am and you don't do that. Pros know exactly how much pre-travel their mouse button has, and they use pre-tensioning to reduce the space between button depress and actuation. If you know how to do this, you might not see as much benefit from the Superstrike. It may even take you a couple lobbies to make sure you're not firing too early or accidentally hitting the switch when you don't want to. I can play on level 1, the lightest, and not have any accidental misfires because pre-tensioning is not a part of my skill set. Here's a couple things you've probably already heard about this mouse and my take on them. 1, because there's no actual switch, there's no actual click, so they use haptics to simulate the click feel. Yes, this feels extremely weird with the haptics turned off. I keep them on level 3, the default setting, and this feels very natural to me. It didn't require any time to adjust. 2, because there's no actual click, there's barely any sound at all, just the faintest sound of the haptics actuating, so this is the closest thing to a silent mouse I've ever heard, and that could actually be a selling point for some people. Probably also seen videos of people squeezing the mouse sides toward the front and making the mouse actuate. I think that's low-hanging fruit for content creators to farm clicks on shorts. There's just no reason you would be squeezing your mouse like that. I don't consider it an issue or a fatal flaw or anything else. In addition to setting the actuation point, you also get access to rapid trigger. So like a Hall effect keyboard, this means that wherever you release the switch, you can reactuate it right then and there. A lot of the testing that day at Logitech involved us seeing how many clicks per second we could achieve. Because rapid trigger exists here, that means it's not peak efficiency to bottom the mouse button out or to let it fully come to rest. The longer you play with this, the more you can learn to float in between those 2 points, actuating the entire time. These factors mean that objectively, yes, this mouse actuates faster than any other mouse on the market right now. Now, how much faster and whether it adds any real benefit is hotly debated on Mouse Review. And you should theoretically be able to spam click this mouse a lot faster than any other mouse currently available. This takes practice because unlike a magnetic keyboard switch with 4 whole millimeters of travel distance, your average mouse switch like an Omron 100mm has a total travel of between 0.5 and 0.7 millimeter. In theory, and in a lot of the data Logitech provided us that they collected from pros, this would add up to a lot more actions per minute in games where that matters, like League. I play COD, and being able to spam quickly offers me no benefit at all. I will talk about what benefits I do feel using this mouse after we talk about the Viper. For now, let's forget hits and just look at it as a gaming mouse. The size and shape are so spot on to the existing Superlight that you can shell swap it with other colorways. Superlight is a very safe shape. It's really popular, but historically it's not been my favorite shape, and the same holds true here. Outside of that, the side buttons have a lot of pre-travel for me, and these factory skates are pretty low tier. They did manage to do some impressive things with the weight management here. Adding the magnetic and haptic assemblies, they managed to keep it to 61 grams, or within 1 gram of the Superlight 2. In theory, they could have shaved another fraction of a gram by eliminating the magnets where the puck goes for power play, but for those of you who care about weight balance, this mouse is very front heavy. Battery life here is rated at 90 hours at 1000 hertz, as usual, much less on 4K or 8K polling rates, and the haptics will affect that too. But you also get the other stuff you normally get with Superlight, like really solid wireless performance and a sensor that's just really good. These days, I'm not big on full-time control software running on my PC, and G-Hub is not it for me. Luckily, Logitech's best kept secret for some reason that they should seriously market more, onboard memory manager, works for all the config here. Load it up, make your changes, close it. It's honestly just as nice as having a web-based driver. We got hands-on with the Superstrike knowing that the Viper V4 Pro was coming in like a month, and we had no idea if Razer had secretly been working on a competing tech for hits, or if we were just going to get all the latest Death Adder V4 Pro updates in the Viper shape. A month later, we found out it was the latter, and we'll talk about it in just a sec. Because I've been traveling a lot more for work lately, I've recently moved from a PC to a MacBook Pro for all my editing. Because internal storage is really expensive, the smartest way to add storage is an external drive, and the smartest way to keep it secure is this. This is the Hold X magnetic mount from Delta Hub, the same company that makes the Carpio wrist rest. Have I mentioned we just restocked my collab colorway? Well, we did, and it's also now available as an add-on in case you already own one. Like the Carpio, this is a pretty simple device that solves a common problem in a very aesthetic way. You don't really want to leave your drive attached just by the USB cable, as it's prone to sliding off the table, and that's assuming you have a table to work on. If you're on location, you may actually have to use your lap. And Hold X makes this feasible by keeping your drive firmly attached to the lid of your laptop and out of your way. There's high quality adhesive on either side, a thin side for your laptop and a thicker side with the magnets for your SSD. You don't have to worry about the magnets causing any issues because they're shielded with Mu metal. And you don't have to worry too much about heat transfer because it holds the drive a nice distance off your laptop. These are available in both silver and black, and they make a sleeve for silicone drives too because adhesive and silicone don't play nice together. To learn more or to grab one for yourself, just click the link down in the description, and thank you so much to Delta Hub for sponsoring today. So the conversation around the Viper will be a much shorter one because there's not really anything novel here. This is a mouse of incremental refinements, and in terms of modern gaming mice, the Viper V4 Pro is about as close to technically perfect as you can get. By that, I mean the 8K wireless is 1.1 up and down. We'll never get faster than this on the current USB spec. We have their new dongle, the sensor is dialed, the power saving methods are strong, so battery life is amazing. The switches are optical, they've eliminated all debounce delay, they're as fast as you can get until Superstrike. Razer has finally given us a full web-based config with no compromises, so there's no longer a reason to run Synapse full-time. We also have rotation adjustment, lift-off adjustment, auto adjust for different surface materials, and the scroll encoder has been upgraded to optical as well, which should prevent ghost inputs over the long term. I really like this shape. It's my second favorite mouse shape ever. They revised this when they did the Viper V3 Pro, where they nailed it, so there are no changes here. The balance is very good. The weight is 50 grams for the white version, 49 for the black, and there's no compromise to the build quality. I haven't run this one long term, but my Viper V3 Pro is still the original review copy I got back in April of 2024. It has over 2,000 hours on it at this point and still works great. The side buttons are very good. Factory skates are very good. The click feel is very good. The only complaint I have about this mouse is the sound of Razer's latest gen optical switches. And I have got some comments about that being a weird thing to complain complain about, so let me explain. These have a very distinct, sharp, metallic, clank-like sound to them. If I'm running a closed back headphone or gaming headset or one with active noise canceling, this is a non-issue. You can't hear these clicks over the audio. But if I'm running an open back headphone or headset, which I prefer for FPS, I can absolutely hear these clicks mixed in with my game audio, and it's maddening. Everyone else's major complaint seems to be that they don't offer this in a mini size for players with smaller hands. Like I said, it's about as close to perfect as you can get. It just didn't make for a very exciting release because it was overshadowed in the media big time by the hits tech on the Superstrike. I said it was my second favorite shape of all time. My favorite shape is the X2H from Pulsar. I've had a lot of them, and the CrazyLights are out now, as well as my limited edition colorway. The weights are very light at sub 40 on the mini and just over 45 on the medium if you're running full glides versus dots. This too has optical switches, 8K, web-based config, rotation adjustment, lift-off distance, all the usual flagship stuff. I love this mouse, and obviously I'm gonna tell you it is the best mouse in the world, and it's the only mouse that will give you the ability to win lobbies because I have a collab version with Pulsar, right? No, that's not how any of this works. Right up until the Superstrike launch, the mouse advice you heard most often was everything is just kind of good now, just pick the size and the weight that works best for you. By and large, that's still the case. I still think those are the two most important factors. You need something comfortable for your hand size and grip style, something predictable. It works the same way every time, and at no time do you want to be thinking about your mouse while you're playing, how to hold it, where the side buttons are, etc. And you've probably already heard enough to determine if something is a deal breaker for you or help you determine which way to go. Price and budget is another factor. If you're already a big fan of the Superlight size and shape, you may see this as kind of a no-brainer to move to the Superstrike because it's just a direct upgrade. The only potential trade-off is balance. But what about people like myself who aren't big fans of that shape? Is there enough performance gain with hits to justify a move? We heard that Apex was banning people because of this mouse, so it has to be crazy, right? Those claims were later debunked, but they sure made for some good headlines right around launch time. Logitech has stacks, hours, terabytes of data collected from pros. Really exciting quotes. We even got to hear from a pro that said it gave him a distinct advantage and there was no reason to use any other mouse. But I'm not a pro, and chances are you're not either, and I'm old enough that my reaction time is compromised, so I will take every advantage I can get my hands on. And when I got this mouse home, it sure felt faster, but placebo effect is a real thing, so after weeks and weeks of testing, here's the deal. I play COD these days to test gear more than any other reason because I know the game engine so well that I know when something feels off. The biggest benefit having super low click latency will get you in an FPS game is getting the first shot off. It's not really going to help with tracking, but in theory it should really benefit something like sniping. And I performed pretty well with the Superstrike, above average. The issue is that after hours and hours of playing with these three mice back to back to back, I play pretty well with all of them, enough that I have to say that any perceived benefit to me is margin of error. Sometimes in this hobby, when we move to something faster, it might not be immediately recognizable, like a faster gaming monitor, but if you play on it for a while and then move down to something slower, you can definitely feel the difference. I thought maybe that would be the case, that other mice would start to feel slow, or that I would just be whiffing shots once I got used to the Superstrike, but that's just not the case for me. Some guys in my Discord have some anecdotal opinions that it helps in certain games more than others, that it benefits single fire weapons more, or that it works on full auto weapons where you want to feather the trigger to maintain accuracy. Now look, obviously I'm not playing at a pro level. My reaction time isn't what it was 15 years ago, and COD is not the end-all be-all to competitive games, but those are my results. The biggest thing Superstrike helped me with was correcting bad behavior by keeping my finger glued to mouse 1. I'm not saying hits is not an impressive technical achievement. It definitely is. I do believe this is objectively the fastest click latency available. I don't believe it's by a large enough margin that the average player is going to feel the difference. As far as I'm concerned, the advice of buying size, shape, and weight first, not necessarily the lightest, just what works best for you, is still the best advice. If you want to check out which gaming monitor is currently offering the best motion clarity on the market, I recently did a video comparing G-Sync's new Pulsar to one of the fastest OLED monitors currently available, and I'll leave that for you right here. And that's it for this time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.